Good to go.
Welcome back to Tech Talks. This is Max Dennison, Digital Inclusion Coordinator for the City of Pittsburgh. I have a special guest today, Deonna Johnson in Cybersecurity. Deonna, thank you for joining. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deonna. It was nice to meet you again, Max.
You as well. We did some work with Black Tech Nation. Actually, you were for everybody who does, it was very, very helpful for me. Sometimes I'm a little disorganized. She was really keeping me on track while we were working with Kalani and the Black Tech Nation movement as far as getting more techies into this ecosystem. So thank you for coming on to our Tech Talks. And basically our conversation today is going to be about cybersecurity. How do you, for people who don't know, how do we get involved in cybersecurity? A little bit of your journey, how you got there, what's the future of cybersecurity, and what roles do not only women but women of color play, or how do you see them playing a role in the future? But before we get into all of that, I want you again to introduce yourself, tell people where you're from, where you grew up, and did you always know you wanted to be in cybersecurity? We'll start there.
Life. And then I rooted into living in Virginia for my undergrad program, and then rooted up to Pittsburgh, and then moved to Sacramento, which is my birth home. Honestly, the technology was not my role of where I wanted to be. It was actually fashion design, fashion stylist. But I remember I had a vision board in high school, was talking about what I wanted to do or what colleges I wanted to go to. It was actually fashion designing and computer programming. But mind you, I didn't know what computer programming was. I just said I wanted to be computer programming. So I thought about going in, I think in most of the classes that I took like in middle school and high school, which is basic computer courses like desktop publishing. And that's how it kind of like involved and everything. And also my dad, he actually works for a cable company. So he was actually doing the routing, using the modems, changing the status of the PC and everything. So that's when I was introduced to that. I didn't know that was technology before because, I'm an 80s baby. So no one didn't know anything what it is now. That's how I started to develop more in computers, was when my dad purchased my first computer. So I was hooked ever since then.
Now, quick question, because I always, I try to listen to whoever I have on here. What age were you when you got that first computer?
My first, oh my gosh. Let's see, it was in middle school. So I'll say about 12, 13.
Right. So, our conversations with other technologists is, I want to see, they say success leaves steps, and one of the big things that I've learned, whether I've read a biography on a Steve Jobs or just having conversations with people like yourself, is that they got that computer in the house at a young age, and it opened up all kind of doors to their success in the future. So, how important was having that computer important, or was it just like everybody had one because your father was kind of connected?
It was both. I was definitely curious at that age of computer because everybody had a computer, and also when I was in school, after I'm done with our assignments in class, we had extra hours to do. So I'd be on the computer playing Oregon Trail. So after that, I was like, I want a computer. So that was like the first computer I ever got it. And also wanted to learn, instead of from being at school, I wanted to learn at home as well. So
Gotcha.
like basic typing, Mavis Beacon, I learned how to, even though I took typing class in high school, I learned typing at home as well.
Got you. Nice. Mm-hmm. Now, was your father the first, I guess, mentor or influential person? Like what, or at that point, okay, you have your father, he is, he's in his tech space. Did that influence you, or was it just kind of like that's what my dad's job is, but I still want to be a fashion like what was just? Can you remember what was the first thing?
Is when I took it was in high school. It was when I took a basic computer desktop publishing. I was actually doing HTML, CSS right way before I even knew what that was. How it was introduced to us, but there was not, like, in high school I didn't have those mentors or those advisors on gearing the career guiding path on what you want to do after high school. So it was just more of a hands-on self-taught type of thing when I was in school, but just never really go in detail what was desktop publishing, what is HTML, CSS, what is typing, like all that was just more as a hands-on self-taught
And
thing.
how did you pick the class? Was it an elective? What made you choose the class?
It was more as an elective.
Mm.
And really, once you have like a basic computer course, and if you fulfill all your credits, you can pick whatever course, and that was something that I always wanted to do.
Got you. So you take the course, it kind of puts a spark in you. You're not 1,000% sure you're going to be a cybersecurity specialist, but it's like,
Yeah,
hey, pretty cool.
the cybersecurity thing didn't start until probably my master's program. My undergrad, I went to school for computer technology, but I was more into electronic engineering courses. So I was taking more of the soldering, building radios, all that. I was actually doing that before cybersecurity. Cybersecurity wasn't as big as it is now. So I went to Norfolk State University, which is a HBCU.
Nice.
So they actually didn't have a cybersecurity program. So I think the closest will be computer science. So they did have a computer science course. That was another thing. I kept wanting to go to the computer science course, but I never took any computer science course. Just probably like about 2-3 basic courses because of my electives of my undergrad program. But they do now have a cybersecurity program that you can like really join in. So they didn't have it before.
Now, Deonna, I don't want to put too much weight on you. I'm not gonna just answer, I guess, to the best of your ability if you can. But if you could, because you brought up 2 good points without maybe even knowing it. So when I'm talking to students or I'm talking to kids, what is the difference between, you hear 3 things, right? IT, computer science, and computer programming. Are they the same? Is it different? Like when you say I went into IT, what is the difference in that and just say I'm going into a computer science degree?
Okay. So the IT is more as of information technology, which is more computer hands-on, which is hardware, just these learning how to take the modems out, the hardware is out, soldering if there's something wrong with the PC. Just the terminology of basic computer hardware. So
Gotcha.
computer science is more of the software side, which is understanding how, like Python, the language of that as well. So those are the main 2, just building the applications from through computer science. So those 2 are different. So I learned the hardware side, and the computer science is basically knowing the whole background of inside the software.
Now, hindsight being 2020, did you going into IT make you a better technologist, or if you had to do it all over again, you would have just started with computer science?
I probably would have started with computer science, because now that I know what the companies are now looking for, and what they don't tell you, and my advisor, I had advisors, but they was just kind of like vague, telling you take these certifications. but they don't tell you what's the purpose of those certifications on. Is it gonna build you up, or are you gonna have to continue to take other certifications more, which you do. But I will completely say I'll do computer science, but also I don't have any issues with computer information technology because I know the hardwares. I know how to take a PC apart if something's wrong with it. I don't have to go to Geek Squad and figure out what's wrong with it. Oh, I can just check it out myself. So like that's like cons when you're in that field. Everything has changed throughout this year. So I would say computer science, and also knowing the languages of what they use at most companies.
Okay. Now you talked about a little bit about mentors or, people in close proximity to you who weren't necessarily able to give you detailed information about this turn or that turn. Okay, if you're a mentor, if you had you as a mentor, right now, and you're talking to your high school version of yourself, what certifications do you need? I'm, we're talking to Deonna in 12th grade. She wants to be in cybersecurity. And not only Deonna, she has a whole group of kids with her. It's about 7 or 8 of them. And we don't want to waste their time or their money or their resources. How do they become, what's I don't want to say the quickest, but what's the most thorough way to become the technologist that you are today? What do you tell?
Man, it's so many certifications. So I want to say there are certain, so if they want to be in cybersecurity, there's too many different levels of each tech positions you want to be in. So it's kind of like an umbrella, especially in cybersecurity. So if you have to figure out what you want to do first and find that pathway on what it is. So if you want to be in cybersecurity, okay, what part in cybersecurity you want to be in? There's forensics, there's cybersecurity analyst, there's ethical hacking, there's penetration tester. So it's like so many.
So real quick, can you just take maybe 2 of those and tell me what they do and a quick sentence or 2, just for somebody who's watching? So I think you said forensics. The last one was like penetration or something.
Tester. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, any 2, it doesn't matter which 2, but a lot of times what happens is, people are intimidated to go into these spaces because they don't know what jobs are available. Even when we're talking about just regular coding or programming, they don't know that there's data analyst. There's always a million positions within a position. So we put it all under that umbrella of cybersecurity, but that can be 354 positions in a company. So I guess what are 2 of the most popular, and kind of, if you could briefly tell somebody, what do they do on a day-to-day basis?
Ooh, okay, so the main popping, I'll take for instance, so there's security engineer and cloud security engineer as well. So those are the main 2 that I look towards to because that's where I want to be in. So security engineering is just more as of security awareness on how to protect the outsides, like be a red hat, blue hat. The cloud engineering is more as of protecting the cloud, which you hear so many, you hear the cloud all the time. The cloud engineer is more as of protecting how to use it. So like if you want to use, of course, there's AWS, GCP, which is the Google Cloud Platform, and there's Azure. So if you want, they have the same style, but they just have a different terminologies on how to use those clouds. But yeah, that's how I can break it down a little bit of it.
So just those 2. Let's start with like a cloud engineer. You want to be a cloud engineer, what certifications do you need to take? Or if you're in college, what classes should you be taking?
So as far as the cloud, I want to say I would say take Security Plus. The
Mhm.
Security Plus is like just the background of how to protect from the cloud. And then they also have the cloud, they have the Cloud Plus as well. And that's through the CompTIA. So CompTIA has their certifications, of course. Azure has their certifications. And then there's Google, they have Google Associate Cloud Engineering. Google has their own certification. And then as you know, AWS, they have the Cloud Practitioner. So it also depends on what cloud certification you want to work with as well. Because a lot of companies do to use those three, but it just depends on where you want to go towards to. So
Gotcha.
AWS is like the main one that's the popping certification that everyone is using right now. But of me, of course, I try to go the opposite way of everybody else, but it's not really as popping, which is Google Cloud, because
Right.
they don't forever. But Azure will be the next one as well.
Gotcha. And in those courses, obviously, like in some ways, university is becoming obsolete in a sense. So like people are not necessarily trying to go get a 4-year degree. So those particular certifications, are you able to get those during a degree, or is that something like almost like a real estate license or something like that you can just go independently seek?
Oh, you can go independently. So you can actually go, like, if you want to go through CompTIA, CompTIA has their certification. You can go through there. Azure, which is Microsoft, you can go on their website and check them out. Google Cloud, they have their own, and AWS, can go to Amazon. So all of them have their own separate certification. You can just easily go to the website. You don't have to, if you want to take courses, of course, they have udemy.com. You can go on there. Just if you want to do hands-on, self-taught yourself instead of having to take an actual course, you can do it that way. You can do Udemy or Cybery. Of course, YouTube University, they always have people on there will tell you tips and on how to take certifications, on how they pass the certifications, and just give you the basics of what you need to do, how to take it.
Gotcha. Cool. Let's get back a little bit back into your story. Okay, so we kind of skipped a little bit. You went to school, you went to HBCU. Again, hindsight 2020, knowing what you know now, are there any courses in high school or college that you may have taken that would have helped you be stronger now, that you just kind of overlooked, or maybe you didn't take because you didn't know they would be important in your future? But like thinking about it now, was there any math courses or anything that would have been very helpful to you?
I don't even think math courses actually is even worth it right now, but not. I want to say one of my computer science courses, I've noticed I learn differently how everyone else do, because I'm very self-taught and I'm very a visual learner. So when it comes to books, it's kind of like, especially in my computer science course, it was kind of hard to understand because, there's professors that can just jump real quick, but not really breaking down. I'm like very detailed. It needs to like, why is it like this? How is it like this? And how can I get to that A, B, and C? But often I do tutors. I go to tutors and everything else, but I think it's something more. I think I was not more very into it. I just wanted to pass class and just go. And that was something that if I can go back, I would really be studious. And I was studious in most of my classes, but I think most of the classes I was just kind of like ready, hurry up and get out, and that's it. So
Got you.
Yeah.
And those classes can, somewhat be sometimes difficult. Did you have any wraparound services, any mentors to help you get through those tough days? How did you manage that? Because a lot of times what happens is this is a white male dominated space. So when you're going to university, there's not going to be a lot of women. There's not going to be a lot of people of color. sometimes even in the boot camps and things like that. How did you go get help when you did run up against problems, or it was a difficult piece of the, you were working on a difficult program, and like, who did you call? Who did you talk to?
I'm trying to think. I actually had tutors through the computer science course, through their advisors, through their department. So I had tutors, and I actually had a classmate that was actually helping me in understanding on what and how this process works. Sometimes it's hard for me to ask for help, and I'll just say, yeah, I understand, but at the end of the day, I still don't understand. So so I would highly recommend, if anyone needs help with trying to understand when you don't understand, just say, hey, I still don't understand. Like it takes time for me to learn something new that's not familiar with me at all, especially it's fresh. That was the only way how I was able to pass the class or understand the course that I took. So my a classmate, a colleague, and just one of the tutors. I didn't really have mentors. I would say my advisors, but they was just kind of like, you're in my face, get out type of situation, because they have other students to attend to. But that would be it for real.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just kind of hit on it. The space is not really dominated with, minorities, people of color, women. What are some of your suggestions of how do we get more women, specifically more women of color into tech, in your opinion, if you had like a magic wand?
If I had a magic wand, I was actually in my undergrad program. There was actually, I joined Ladies of Technology, and it was all Black. And that was look for some organizations that actually have tech groups. That was one of the groups that I really loved, because it was me in tech, and I wasn't the only one, and I also had classmates and still became friends with them to this day. I would say look up some organizations, and even outside organizations. Like I'm actually in 3 groups, cybersecurity of blacks in cybersecurity. They're based in the DMV area, but they're trying to expand, they're actually expanding in each states wherever you live in. So I don't know if there's one in Pittsburgh, but I know if someone was in that organization, they'll probably say, hey, I want to be an ambassador of Pittsburgh, just to bring more people together. But me being Black in tech as a female, it's a challenge. It really is. And I be like rooting for whoever I follow on Instagram. I be like, I'm rooting for you. Like I follow so many of them at all the time. Another group I would highly recommend is Black Cloud Geeks. That's the organization. They're more so in the cloud security group, but they're also in security, cybersecurity as well. And they'll do study groups with you. They'll have mentors. They'll give you tips and give you people who works for different companies, give you and just give you leeways and just uplift you and be motivated.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I know there's another group of Linux. There's another Women of Linux. That's a group that I joined as well. That's another thing, just a tip. Instead of I'll probably jumping into one of the questions is type of instead of being away, if you want to go in school or not, there's ways to learn, like Linux. Basic Linux is one of the top tier things that most people should know.
Gotcha.
That should be recommended in schools as well.
Sounds good. So now, I guess the question is, first I want, I guess, you to answer what makes you a good cybersecurity analyst, and what are some skill sets you think somebody should have if they want to get into the field, right? So like, this is to give you an example. If I'm horrible with my hands, right? I'm not good at pulling things apart. I'm not good at remembering the inside, the details, and putting pieces back together or puzzles. But I'm good at communicating. I like to talk. I like to explain things. I like to break things down. Being that you're in the space you are in now, what makes you good at it? And then, what skill set would you tell a younger version of yourself to work on to be stronger and for when you do get into that workforce? Take your time. We got some time.
I need the water for that. No, I'm just how am I at this? Well, I can only be better for myself when it comes to being the best cybersecurity analyst. I won't say I'm perfect because I'm learning pretty much every day. It's cybersecurity. It's not going anywhere. It's gonna be there forever. And I try to learn new things. I try to learn the new tech roles, and I try to learn what's happening now. I try to stay afloat and fresh my mind because it's a lot going on right now with the whole like tech, with other companies and stuff like that. So you try to be aware of what's going on. Also try to be proactive on that.
But kind of being, becoming a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
How quick is the turnover in information? How often are you refreshing your information?
It seems like it's every day. For me, it seems like it's every day because there's something I've noticed. I love learning new things, but I also got to remember I have to take it one day at a time. And also I can't jump into one thing like a program or something. I can't learn JavaScript and then try to learn Python at the same time. It's either you stick with one or don't do both of them at the same time. So it's like that. That's how I try to be consistent and just keep working on what I really want to refresh my memory on.
Got you. And I'm sorry, I may have missed it, but how do we get more Deonnas? How do we pull more?
Oh,
I think we might have went off on a tangent for a second, but I really want to like hit that in the head. So we need thousands of more people in AI, robotics, computer programming. We even need help, in the various organizations and foundations, as we seen with Black Tech Nation, how we were constantly we just need more. We just need more across the board. How do we draw more young women and then young women of color as well into this space, in your opinion?
In my opinion, they have to want to be in it though. At the same time, most kids are afraid to be in the tech world because they see what's happening right now. But if they have to be more have a curiosity background. Just want to be curious if they want to be in a tech. Sometimes they say they want to, and then all of a sudden they just go off on doing something else totally different what they wanted to say. So that's another thing. Most likely if they have it in schools, I think if they teach it in schools, they can at least show like, hey, this is what we're doing. Just, kind of like a mentor, just having like a pop-up like, hey, you want to be in tech, this is what you can do, X, Y, and Z. And just let them know, like, you can be part of the organizations that you see your favorite artists in, or you can even work with your artists or whatever organization they're in. I think it's just curiosity and making sure the schools is actually promoting techs in the schools, because I think I feel like there's not that many schools are talking about it.
Got you.
And also, if you even have after school programs.
Mm-hmm. Got you.
So if I was the little Deonna and I want to be in tech, I'll try to reach out to as many schools or many organizations to say, hey, are you doing this, or what can I do to get in?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not that much promotion when it comes to Black tech, because I get it. There's social media, but no one really. I personally don't like to be on social media that much, but just the word of mouth, if they have it at your code location as well.
Right. No, absolutely. Okay, and then if you're so you've had some experience in tech. I mean, in cybersecurity, which is tech. And you alluded to it a little bit earlier. You said, it's tough. What has been, or have you had any experiences that were tough specifically because you were either a person of color or a woman in this space that you're able to talk about?
Yeah, I want to say it's both. Especially me being young and when I work in many companies. I wanted to get a certification through just to build up my skills and everything. And they tried to give me a free certification. I'm like, well, if it's free, what's the purpose of having that if you're not going to pay for it? But then went behind my back. Well, not really went behind my back, but went about talking to another colleague and said, hey, you want to go ahead and do this course and we'll pay for you. And mind you, that colleague wasn't even thinking about getting no type of certification or anything. It was just kind of like a slap in my face, like, what was the purpose of me? But you went around the other opposite side and decide to give that person and pay for them and still be able to work to take that the certification. Like that was that like a life lesson learned? I don't know, but it was just something that I felt like if I never voiced it, they probably would never did that. But now when I did voice it, like, hey, I want to get a certification. I've been here for a year. I'm trying to build up my skill sets. I'm trying to grow. And sometimes it's hard for, females like us that wants to grow, and people just look at you like you're not deserving to grow within the company. They just want you to be where you at, like a stagnant type of position. And you like me personally, I get bored easily. So if it's something if I'm not growing within the company or anything, I will have to leave.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, and I don't know how we, because we've been jumping all around a little bit. And choosing, I don't know if you necessarily hit it on the head, why you chose cybersecurity over AI, over robotics, and those other spaces. I may have missed it, but what made you go? So when you're in college, you're finishing up, and you're about to go get your master's degree. I think you said you chose cybersecurity in your master's program, and then your bachelor's program was IT, kind of, right?
Yeah.
When did you know cybersecurity was the one, and why did you choose that over all of the various other fields that you probably could have went into?
I choose that because I actually experienced my personal identity being stolen. And it happened in college when it was on me, but at the same time, someone broke into my friend's car. My purse was in their car, and then all of a sudden, my credit cards, everything was gone. And then realized that all my information was like gone. Like I didn't know what happened or anything. So until I looked at my bank account, noticing that there was, purchases and everything. And I'm like, I wonder how, that's when it kind of triggered, like, maybe I should figure out how to protect myself and how to become aware of what's happening or how these hackers do this, because it's like, it's crazy how 1 minute your identity is safe and then all of a sudden your identity is gone. Like people will take advantage of any situation of your personal identity. So that was how I wanted to be in cybersecurity.
Got you. And then, so actually, you kind of got into cybersecurity because of, I don't want to say, I guess, bad luck in a sense, right? That kind of drove you.
Yeah.
And then you moved around a lot. Tell me, what is, or is there a difference in, East Coast versus West Coast cybersecurity? Is it all the same? Is the experiences different?
I want to say it's the same, but it depends on where you are based on that. So like when I was in Norfolk is like Norfolk will probably be one of the top areas to be in cybersecurity. But then of course you got the DMV area, which is, the DC area where all the government jobs and everything else. That's like if you want to be in that area. Pittsburgh, I was still learning that area, knowing I didn't know if there was any Blacks in tech until I met, you guys. And then the West Coast, of course, I feel like the West Coast is kind of like dominating the East Coast because you have the Silicon Valley and tech sector. So it's like, I would say the West Coast is better than the East Coast, but of course, again, you got the South as well. I didn't live in the South, but those are the main two, the East Coast and West Coast. I say the West Coast is, but it's starting to spread in each states now.
Got you. What do you think was your first big break into the industry?
Man, I thought I thought my first big break was the first job that I worked at. When I tell you, it was not. I want to say I have not made it there yet, and the reason why is because I'm still learning how the tech companies work. I'm still learning how they, how they negotiate certain things, and how I was never taught and mentor how they, the salary base wise and everything else. Yeah, I thought that was my first job, and it was in tech. It was actually out of healthcare. So I thought that was my big break, but it was not. I'll say that was like the entry level or the beginning of my tech space. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, most of these companies will look at you to see how much skills you have. Most of them don't look at your degree. Like, oh, you got a degree, cool. But what can you do for the company? Like, what is your niche? How can you be part of our team? How can you join? So I want to say that was like the first job was my breaking ground and everything else. But other than that, yeah.
Got you. What do you think is where is the future of cybersecurity? Where is it going?
Ugh. Honestly, I feel like it's just gonna. I think it's gonna go towards the space. Like there's cyberspace as well. So that.
Oh, I don't know. Tell us a little bit about cyberspace. How does that work?
Cyberspace, but I feel like that's gonna be the next big thing. But honestly, I feel like the top big things is data analyst, AI, which is artificial intelligence, and machine learning. I think those are the main big breaks that everyone's going to be looking forward towards. Even though cybersecurity is always going to be there, but if you want to know more about your data, you will definitely look into the data analyst area.
Got you. As we wrap up, I have a couple more questions, and then anything I want you to talk to the audience and students and anybody that may be watching, and kind of tell them, how they can get in touch with you. I guess my last big question is, first, if you could do it all over again, would you go back into cybersecurity?
Oh yeah, I would go back to cybersecurity. I would just go a different, a route, and stick to it instead of just jumping into different sectors I wanted to do. Because there's forensics. I always thought about doing forensics, but then I'm like, well, I gotta stick to that one. Then I'm like, oh, I want to be in cloud engineering. So it's you want to jump into each pot, but you have to make sure that pathway is still aligning with what you want to do, because if not, you're gonna just be, your head's gonna be spinning, because there's so much to learn in each sectors.
Gotcha. Okay, before you jump off, can you please let, if there's some young students, young women of color maybe, who want to reach out and have questions or concerns or interested in getting cybersecurity, how can they reach you? And any message you want to leave before you jump off?
Yeah, so I'm usually on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook that much. You can follow me at _Deonna_, which is DEONNA_. I would say if you want to be in tech, go for it. Don't hesitate at all. If you want to be in cybersecurity, go for it. Don't hesitate, because it's open. Our arms are open. Cybersecurity is open for anybody and everything. There's so many open jobs now, but it's just hard for people to get in, because they're trying to find you, or they're trying to find that person that fits their needs. And the job is there. They're just waiting for you.
Got you. Thanks, Deonna. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in for the Tech Talk with Deonna Johnson. Today we were talking about cybersecurity. Hopefully you learned a lot of gems. We talked about the difference between IT, the hardware side versus the software side. We talked about her journey, some of the difficulties that may come about, and also, some of the breakthroughs as well. And the whole idea that this is a huge space and there's plenty of room for people to join, get involved, and have a great career in cybersecurity. Thanks again for showing up, Deonna. I'm glad we got it done.